Thank you, Ariana. I really loved the photos that you had throughout your presentation, and I really liked your connect the dots slide. It really made it very relevant for me, really resonated with me, connecting that dot and helping us visualize how your program is getting partners in the community involved. So I really like that. Thank you. So I would like to now welcome Rick Behrens. He is the coordinator for the Kansas City, Kansas Levee Trail. So please help me welcome Rick.
Thank you. I got to tell you how much I love your active applause thing. As a theater major, you should be careful at the end because I might think you want an encore, so you might tamp it down a little bit. My name's Rick Behrens. I am the Levee Trail Coordinator for Healthy Communities Wyandotte. It's a part-time position. My day job is I'm a pastor in the community. And I'm thinking of renaming the position the KCK Levee Trail Trials Coordinator. I almost named this the KCK Levee Trail Trials and Tribulations presentation, but I thought that was a little too much alliteration for a Thursday afternoon, and I didn't want to diminish the tribulations that we all are going through these days. Today I want to share a little bit about our efforts to open 10 miles of levee for biking and hiking. It's not so much an accident that I put trail and trials together. You know, sometimes when you're typing trails, you end up with trials, and that's sort of what has happened with this whole effort. There are significant trials that we go through trying to work with the different institutions and organizations that we have to get yeses from, and it's been a significant trial for all of us to try to do that. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. This is really a trial that has been going on for 20 years. There have been people throughout the last 20 years who've been trying to get our levees open for biking and hiking and have run up against consistent no's instead of yeses. So let's see, I'm terrible with these things. The question of why we might be asking why this is important. If this trail project is such a trial, then why keep at it? It's a good question, and I think we have some good answers. The first one is that Wyandotte County has a lack of available healthy infrastructure in the way of shared use paths. Those would be the paths that are for biking and walking with families, not like the specific trails for like mountain biking, but real multi-use trails. We don't have many of those. You saw one Levee showed, that Wesley showed, which was the Jersey Creek Trail. And other than that, in our urban core, there's not a lot going on with trails. And so when I first took this position, I went to the Mid-America Regional Council trail map, and I inventoried the miles of trail for each county, Wyandotte, Johnson, Jackson, Platte, and Clay counties. And I compared those to the populations, the total miles of trails to the populations of those counties. And when I looked at the miles for Johnson County's had for every 3,000 residents, there was 1 mile of shared use path, basically in Johnson County. When you looked at the other counties, Platte, Jackson, Clay County, that number went up to about 4,000 to 4,500 people per mile of trail. Now I want you to turn to your neighbor and guess what that number would be for Wyandotte County, the number of people per mile of shared use path in Wyandotte County. Turn to your neighbor and come up with a number. Or decide at your table together. Who has a number? What? Oh man, you hit it right on the nail. Did I have that up there on the, how'd you do that? That's exactly right. It came out to be about 20,000 people for every mile of shared use path in Wyandotte County. So really this is a health infrastructure equity question, and it really means a lot to have these shared use paths available for families, for people to get out and to improve their well-being and improve the well-being of the county. The other factor that makes this important is cost. This is an already built infrastructure. We don't have to go out and buy land by streamways to build new construction. This is already existing, and there's more than 15 miles. We're working on a 10-mile vision, but there's more than 15 miles of levee in Wyandotte County that could easily be converted to shared use path. The Turkey Creek project, which comes from Johnson County into Wyandotte County, the projected cost for 10 miles of that has been around the $5.5 to $6 million range. We could do 10 miles of levee trail in Wyandotte County for less than $1 million, easy. So the cost is another reason to go with this. We also know that communities with healthy infrastructure have improved health outcomes, and we in Wyandotte County need improved health outcomes. We know that trails improve neighborhoods and communities and attract economic development. So the vision, our vision is a 10-mile trail in 4 phases, and I don't know, which button do I push to get the top button? I'm really new to this thing. So we've got 10 miles here. I don't know if you can see this sort of a 3 here, but right now we have this, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to speak louder, aren't I, out here? We have this section here open, and I don't know if you know where Procter & Gamble's plant is off Kansas Avenue, but that's where we start here with phase 1 and ends here. That's a 1.3-mile section. That's our phase 1. Phase 2 goes from 12th Street here up to this cool bridge that's right here, right across from Kemper Arena.
We're recording. Here you go.
There's a developer's working on converting that bridge, which is the old Norfolk Rail Bridge, into a crossing right there by Kemper, and that would be part of our vision for the trail. Then we would come up on the other side of the river by Kemper, cross back on the Heritage Trail, and phase 3 would end at Caw Point. Phase 4 would go from Caw Point all the way up here to the new 69 bridge around Fairfax, and you could connect up with the Riverside Levee Trail in Riverside, which eventually will connect up with the Parkville River Walk. And so this whole vision is a vision of connectivity and a way to bring communities together, but it also would connect our citizens and our families with these 2 great resources, these 2 great rivers that surround our community that people hardly ever connect with. And it put them right in proximity where you can see these great resources and be out and experience it. So that's our vision. And here are the players. I guess I can set this down. The players, the trials of this trail effort become evident when all the players that are necessary come to the table. To begin with, we have to control our levees. They have legal authority over the levees. One is the Caw Valley Drainage District, which covers the Kansas Riverside, and the other is the Fairfax Drainage District, which covers the section of the Missouri River that the levee runs next to. These drainage districts have been opposed to the use of the levees in this way all along, from the very beginning. We did have a yes in 2014 when we got Caw Valley Drainage District to agree to open the 1.3-mile section that is currently open, our phase 1, that's down by Procter & Gamble in Armourdale. It has still been a challenge since then for them to get them to honor that agreement. We consistently find these gates closed on the section that is supposed to be open, and that has been an ongoing battle since we signed the MOU with them in 2014 for them to get those gates open so people don't think that it's closed. The drainage districts started out with a narrative of this is not good for the businesses around the levee. It will expose them to problems with graffiti, problems with damage to property, and it would expose their property also, they say. That was their initial narrative, but when we present the fact that urban theory says that the more eyes and people who are around, crime goes down, they've changed their narrative now to the safety of the people on the levee that would be using it. So they've had to adjust their reason for no. The Army Corps of Engineers is another partner, and they control all the structural changes to the levee. They're the federal the federal authority over the levees. And they have historically had no problems with levees being adapted to multi-use in this way. They have never said no to the changes that we've asked on the levee. And also there are levee trails all over the nation, and in our study of those trails, there has been nothing but praise for the way those trails have added benefit to the community in multiple ways. Another partner in this is Public Works of Wyandotte County. They've been an ally in this work. The assistant county administrator is a passionate advocate, but budgeting for trails in a county that largely does not have sidewalks is a challenge. You would have seen in Ariana's presentation that a lot of the streets those kids were walking on didn't have sidewalks on them, and getting those sidewalks built is sometimes a higher priority than thinking about budgeting for trails. And Parks and Recreation is another partner in this, as they would ultimately have responsibility once this whole vision is put in place, and they already have their hands full trying to maintain their own limited infrastructure with the limited funds that are available to them. So more trials. But I just wanted to share with you briefly our most recent trial. And it has to do with challenges that came to a head in relation to our Levee Fest, which happens every year on National Trails Day, which is the first Saturday in June. The Levee Fest happened on June 2nd, and we have received a grant from a Trails Foundation to resurface not only Phase 1, the 1.3 miles, but also Phase 2, resurface with crusher fine, which will make it a lot easier to run, walk, and bike on. And so we began that work. We began it after the assistant county administrator had been in talks with the drainage district and had pretty much thought she had a gentleman's agreement to not only resurface Phase 1, but Phase 2, for which we don't have an MOU on yet, but there had been an understanding that that was going to work. Well, they went to start the resurfacing on Phase 2, and the maintenance person for the drainage district came out and said, you can't do that here. And he not only scraped off the work they had done, 600 feet of resurfacing, he bulldozed a ramp that had been built to improve access for the people that we were bringing for the Levee Fest to get up on the trail. So, the drainage district claims that it was the work of a rogue maintenance worker. However, this rogue maintenance worker is still employed by the drainage district and seems to be a valued employee. On the other end of the vision is the Fairfax part of the trail, Phase 4, and Fairfax Association has convinced the Fairfax Industrial Association, as well as the commissioner for that district, that the levee trail is a bad idea. And so right now, that whole fourth phase looks like it could never happen. But we also thought Phase 1 could never happen, and it's happened. So what we're doing is we continue to push forward with the conviction that this kind of project can have a tremendously positive impact on the health outcomes for our families. Thank you.